Welcome to Rabbit's Closet, my friend. I did a live stream earlier and I'm coming back to talk about some really tragic, horrible shit that nobody wants to address regarding Anna Duggar and everything that's been happening in her life since Josh went to prison, her relationship with her in-laws, Jim Bob and Michelle. We're going to look at a couple of emails. I just picked out, I think, 2 or 3 emails between Anna and Josh. A lot of them are pretty gross and illicit. And I want to focus on some that I think reflect like the psychology behind what's going on with Anna. But then we're going to look at a Q and answer session with a close family friend of Anna's. Okay. This is someone who grew up with Anna, who was around Anna and her parents growing up. Okay. And I've actually talked about this before. I've made a lot of other videos where I go deep down into what happened to Anna as a child, because it's quite interesting. It's not always what you think it would be. Anna's actually known for being very headstrong, for having been a very happy kid. They were growing up in poverty and like pretty abject poverty in like a trailer. Sometimes they were living in a camper. We're going to talk about all of that, but we're definitely going to take a very close look at what this close family friend had to say regarding Anna's childhood. Hi, Ivana. So good to see you. Sarah Lopez. Oh, you made it. Oftentimes you don't make it. Okay, my husband just came back from the United States. He's been gone for like over a month now. And one thing he brought me was this water bottle. I love water bottles and we have to have them here because we have to drink like special water. The local water isn't safe for us. So anyway, he brings me this water bottle, right? And it has its own filter. You guys, if any of you have ever had this before, let me know what you think about them, because I have found this water bottle to be totally ridiculous. When I suck on it, I have to suck so hard to get any water to move up through that filtration system. So I tried to give like a double to my daughter to use at school. And she's like, Mom, I can't even use this. I can't get this water to come through the straw. I love the color. I love everything about it, but I really have to work hard. I feel like my whole face is just giving like it's getting red and I'm having a hard time. Everyone check out Umbrella Rebellion on YouTube. I love this YouTube channel. You can also find them on Instagram. They have a lot of really good shorts coming out all about the Duggar family, and they have so much information. I really appreciate you because I know I've sent you some questions, which you've answered for me, and I appreciate you very much. Yeah, so I am interested. Do people buy these in the US? I think it's a Target brand called Life Straw. And it's crazy to me. First off, I don't like buying expensive water bottles. I'm really angry that water bottles cost so much. I constantly ask my mother-in-law and my husband when he goes back to go to Ross and buy water bottles. I love Ross and how they mark their water bottles down to like $4.99. And I'm like, go get water bottles there. But they don't like to go to that store. They think it's like, cruddy. Whereas like, that's my main store that I shop at. So they buy me, like my husband got this from Target. I'm like, this has got to be, he didn't tell me how much it was, probably a $50 water bottle. I refuse. Absolutely ridiculous. Okay, today we're going to talk about Anna Duggar and how I really feel like Anna's been paid for her silence regarding whatever goes on in the Duggar house, you guys. Recently, it came to my attention that Jim Bob purchased in his name, he didn't put in Anna's name, but he purchased in his name a very expensive, very nice house in Arkansas, and he's allowing Anna to live there with her children. We are going to take a look at it right now.
That when Jim Bob first bought this home, I was like, you guys, it can't be for Anna. Everybody heard there was a falling out. We saw her with a U-Haul on the property. And then Realtor.com did this article. Anna Duggar shares rare videos of daughters at $1 million home bought by Jim Bob as husband trash remains behind bars. Now, at first, again, I was like, oh, why would he do that? First of all. Second of all, it doesn't surprise me that he did it to keep Anna close. And third of all, Jim Bob and Michelle buy properties like all the time, right? All the time. All the time, literally.
So this is Mrs. Kickstand, and I always listen to her on TikTok. Umbrella Rebellion, does she have like a YouTube page? But she does a great job. She talks about the Duggars, but all kinds of stuff as well. And we're just going to finish listening to her do this like quick intro about what's happening with the house. Let me get this back.
Right? All the time. All the time. Literally, they own so much of Arkansas, it's actually quite scary. Anna Duggar has shared a rare glimpse of the $1 million home that was reportedly purchased for her by her father-in-law, Slim Bob Jim Bob Duggar, as her husband Trash remains behind bars where he should be.
Okay, so this is Anna. We're going to take a look at the video that she put out of her girls playing with a puppy at the new $1 million house that Jim Bob purchased. I want to emphasize again, Jim Bob put it in his name, okay? He didn't give it to Anna, put it in her name. She owns it. We don't know everything that's going on financially with that. Maybe Anna had to take some of her savings and put it towards that. I do remember like earlier on in the show, the 19 Kids and Counting show, when Derek Dillard and Jill had first married, Jim Bob had bought a house that was like a mansion and he allowed them to live in it for a little while. So Jim Bob has a history of buying properties, like even very large, extravagant properties, and then they like fix them up and resell them. So it's not unusual for him to do this. He has given really nice properties to other family members. It is interesting. Like, I wonder if he makes political maneuvers with it. Like, I'll give this person a really nice house, but this person has to go live in like a shack down the road by the river, you know? I would not be surprised if that's a big part of what Jim Bob does with his kids, okay? So Anna moves into the $1 million house. There's a couple of things going on here. Anna, we're going to see in a few minutes, she started like a dog. She's like raising puppies to sell, right? So, and I'm pretty sure they're golden retrievers. We'll see some of them in the next video. She's raising them. She's trying to sell them. This is like a new business for her. I do believe that the whole car business that Josh used to have and Anna tried to run it after he went to prison, that's all fallen apart. I think this is a new way for Anna to bring in some income. I do believe that a lot of things from everything that I've read and some things that people have shared with me behind the scenes, I think that Anna's relationship with Jim Bob and Michelle, and we can also see this in the emails, is not a good relationship. They're at odds a lot of the time. Anna feels very hurt and alone in the emails. Anna feels ostracized. Anna feels as though she's being used as a maid at times. Anna has a higher opinion of herself and Josh than many people in that family do. We see that all in the emails. It's right there, and we'll see some of it when we look at them. But, you know, there's definitely some butting of heads going on between Anna and her in-laws, right? We've also seen that Anna is spending a lot more time with her sisters and other people in her life. We don't often see her on social media. She shut down most of her social media, except when it comes to raising the puppies now. Shut down her social media. We don't see her making videos about her life. She kind of went under the radar with a lot of that. And I think like she's had really strained relationships and she's been very lonely. Okay. On top of that, I think Jim Bob and Michelle, like some of the indication I've been given is they're really tired of having to like support Anna and Josh. They really want Anna to just go and continue to support Josh, but they don't have to deal with it anymore. Okay. They don't want to leave Josh out to dry because, I mean, Jim Bob and Michelle, they are the kind of people where they don't want to be seen as just like throwing him, you know, into the trash. Right. So that now they're leaving it to Anna, the woman they chose for him, and maybe even, you know, bought for him. I'm not saying that they gave money to her family, but in some ways they bought her, you know. They want her to kind of take care of things from here on out. So moving her to her own home is like a way of pushing her sort of outside of the circle somewhat. Also, because Anna wanted to raise puppies, I think that was another issue for them. Like, obviously they have land to do it on, but there's so much happening on that compound. As we know, they've got bigger fish to fry when it comes to this horrible allegation made against Joe Duggar. They've got to worry about what's going to happen with Kendra and all her kids. They've got the Caldwells breathing down their neck. They're getting older. Many people are speculating that they're getting ready to give the house to Jed. I don't know anything about that. That's just a speculation that people have made. But I do think it makes sense that eventually, once their kids are grown, they may want to give it to one of the children who has, sired a lot of kids themselves. So there's a lot of reasons why they may have wanted to move Anna out of here. Let's take a look at the video. This is the video that Anna posted of her kids in the mansion. It's interesting to me because Anna has stayed off of social media, and all of the Duggar women are always on social media making all these like posts and videos. We have Jana, who is quiet for so long. Now she has a whole YouTube channel, and I honestly like to watch Jana's channel. But it's interesting to me that Anna was able to go so dark for so long, and she's really only come back to social media to share information about the dogs that she's selling. There are a lot of people on Reddit. I go to Reddit a lot. There are a lot of people on Reddit who very much criticize Anna. They don't. I've seen a bunch of posts about how Anna doesn't know what she's doing when it comes to breeding dogs. She bought like a set of moms and dads that are from like the same litter. And so this could be like a problem genetically. This is what people are, they're just all over Reddit, like coming down on her. Okay. And we know that this is what people like to do. A lot of people really don't like Anna. They don't have any sympathy for her. I certainly feel a lot of compassion towards Anna. I think that'll come out as we read here. I want to Umbrella Rebellion, who is deep in this and probably knows way more than I ever will about all of this. She says, I feel like Anna has a lot of entitlement. And we'll see a lot of that as I go through the AMA. I want to show you guys where we have a family friend, like a accredited family friend, talking about what Anna's life was like when she was a child. Now, it's very interesting to me because they were living in poverty. You can go back and look at some of my videos, and I show like videos that Anna made. I guess they're in the camper, and they're taking videos of themselves, Anna and her sisters, and they're talking about their lives. And it's just really sad. I mean, it's dilapidated. It's not clean. Her dad, much like the Caldwell dad, I mean, from what I understand about the Caldwell dad, Paul Caldwell, her dad kind of like left behind any semblance of like a real job to become a minister. And then he ministered in prison systems, right? And he often, supposedly, according to Anna and some of the kids, he would take his kids along with him, or he might like include them in some other way by like putting together prayer books or doing whatever. So he kind of set them up, right? He set them up to be involved with convicts and inmates. Like, what kind of a dad? I mean, I don't know, because I am, you guys know, I'm all about prison reform. I'm all about changing the way we do things for prisoners. I believe that people actually deserve second chances. I'm not always talking about SA. When I say that, that would be a whole other video if you really want to get into, what I think needs to be done differently. I'm a big fan of Canada's system. There's a lot of room when it comes to Canada for massive intervention in the prison system, and people do get second chances, and they're monitored very closely. Our prison system is abysmal. We are locking people up that don't need to be locked up, or you guys know, we're letting people out that don't need to be let out. It's just absolutely insane. A lot of it has to do with who knows the judge, who has the best lawyer, all that kind of stuff. Let's see what Shu has to say. Shu says women are treated like baby mills too. So why not puppy mills? Yeah. I wonder if for Anna, that is kind of what's going on, where she's like, this is the only thing I feel safe doing. I like to be a mother. So now I can help, female dogs bring their litters into the world. It's really sad. Let's see. Let's go up here a little bit. Shu says, Yeah, I do see that there was never any other outcome for Anna. She was not given a choice about anything in her life. I really agree with this, and we'll see it as we go through. Now, I do feel like Anna comes off as very like meek and quiet when you actually watch 19 Kids and Counting, and that a lot of people have that representation of her in their minds. But when you actually go through information that's been provided by people who know her family and know her, many people have said like she's extremely strong-willed, stubborn. She wants things the way that she wants them. Okay. Laura says, I am curious, given your location in Africa, are you situated in proximity to the Ebola issue? We're safely away from the Ebola issue, but it is something that we're dealing with here. The CDC is actually here doing some work. It's something that my husband deals with as well. My husband's focus is primarily the Sudanese, the Sudanese war that's happening right now. And for me, specifically and my kids, we actually live in a place considered a safe haven. So we don't live where my husband does his like specific work. We are kept in an area where we will be safe. But yeah, a lot of what's going on with the Ebola issue is very, very scary. I can't imagine. I was looking at some of the doctors who have gotten sick, and I have so much. Let me see if I can make this big. Ooh. Go back. I'm having problems. Okay, make this big. Thank you guys for hanging in there. All right, let's go back to what I was saying regarding Anna. Okay, so Anna. All right. After everything went down with Josh being convicted and he went to prison, I was really worried for Anna. I felt like not only did she just go through a very difficult trial, watch her husband get sent away, but it really felt like so many people in the media, on social media, everyone was kind of against her. She looked like a walking zombie at times during the trial. And I just really thought to myself, like, what is she going to do with her life? She's been raised to be a wife and mother. I'd done a couple of videos about her and her family. She had been raised not only to be a wife and a mother, but to be forever indebted to her husband. You know what I mean? Like, this guy that she married brought her out of poverty, put her in front of a camera, and then took her to Washington, D.C., and made it like they were going to be some amazing political couple that changed the world, right? I think that Anna developed a sense of self-importance through a lot of that. I mean, truly believing maybe she was going to bring Christianity to the masses. When I think about her life and like all the psychology behind who she's become, it's quite interesting to come from nothing and then be told like you're some kind of IBLP princess that's going to help Josh carry Christianity, into DC and change everything. And I have shown you guys some AMAs about people who knew Josh in Washington, DC, and how crazy he was there. Like, just that Anna and Josh really thought of themselves as the shit, right? And Josh was running around with women. He was flirting with all kinds of crazy people, going out and doing crazy stuff. And Anna was at home, like sitting on a throne. That's kind of how I see it. I think she was maybe intentionally blind to the fact that he was having affairs and doing all this crap. And even once it all came out and she lost everything, it's like Anna refused to give in, refused to give up, refused to ever, and Josh is like this too, refused to ever like humble themselves. That's what's hard, is like, where's the humility of like, I mean, obviously this was before he was convicted, when he had, come forward and said, I've had these affairs. There was an AMA that was done with a bodyguard who was hired to be around them directly after Anna and Josh returned from DC. They came back to Arkansas. There was a big family party welcoming Josh home. And the bodyguard said that Jim Bob Duggar like walked up with Josh to like this big, it was like a pool party pretty much, walked up with Josh, like with his hand around Josh. And he was like, here's the man of the hour. Because he came home from DC after like, everything had come out that he had molested his sisters and that he was having affairs and really treating Anna bad. It's like he was welcomed home like he's still some kind of a hero, right? So when you hear these kinds of things ongoingly from multiple people around the Duggars, I mean, even though a lot of it is speculation and, we don't have someone coming forth and saying, this is my name, this is who I am, this is what I did. When you have like so many people saying the same things, it really does add up to wanting to believe, feeling like you have to believe. Okay, Umbrella Nation says, thank you for being here. I feel like you're adding a lot of information. Sometimes I think she's refusing to see the truth of all the situations because if she did, her life would crumble and she would be the poor single mom 100%. But to me, that's also about humility. Like she is not willing to say, oh my God, I married the wrong man. I made some wrong choices. I might need to change how I'm doing things. When people say that she's stubborn, I'm like, I can really see that. She will not like give in. She's going to continue to push and push and push and say, no, Josh was unfairly convicted. What he did wasn't that bad, whatever it is that she's come up with to say about the situation. Umbrella Nation says, I feel like they treated her like she was the one that committed the crime instead of a victim of his crimes. 100%. And that's, to me, that's exactly Umbrella Nation. I've put out a lot of videos where I'm really concerned for Kendra. I feel like Kendra is getting that same kind of treatment. People they love to have a villain. Someone has to be like 100% bad. There's no room in people's hearts for the compassion of like, even if someone like Kendra or Anna stands by their husband who did something wrong, like, can't you understand that it might be really hard for them? Their heart might be breaking. They may be at home every night taking an antidepressant and laying on the couch and crying, but they're standing by their man because they don't know what else to do. They're afraid. They have children with this person. Their money is tied up in this person. Their housing is tied up in this person. I mean, to me, like I cannot look at someone like Kendra or Anna and just say like, this is disgusting. How dare you stay with your husband when something goes wrong? I mean, I've worked in offender facilities, and I have worked with the families. Sometimes the families are the ones who are the victims, very much so, because most of the people that I've worked with actually are child offenders. Oftentimes it's a sibling that's a victim. It is really hard for these people to, number one, accept the conviction that's been given. And then a lot of people still, I mean, I've even had victims that still want to come back and do counseling and still have relationships with these people. It's so much more complicated than people want to make it. And it is not black and white. It is not one person is a victim, one person is a villain. There's so much going on here. Ivana says, Anna is a stubborn one. She refuses to see the truth about Josh. Have you noticed wives get treated worse than the offender a lot of the time? And Ivana, 110%. This is such an on-point comment. I think people look at someone like Josh and they say, yeah, that's really gross what he did. But how could his wife let him do that? His wife didn't know what was going on. She knew what was going on. She's probably letting him do whatever he wants with his kids. People literally look at a wife and fault her for what her husband is doing. And these are people in the mainstream, not just people in the IBLP, because we know the IBLP does that. We know that the IBLP, ATI, Fundamental Baptists, whatever, they're going to look at the wife and say, were you not keeping him happy at home? Like, what is your part in this? But when I look at, when I do my channel and people who are very much mainstream come on here and they're like, she knew what was going on. I'm like, I don't know that. I'm more inclined to believe that most, until I have some kind of evidence in front of me that Kendra or Anna or anyone in that position specifically knew what was going on and contributed to it, I'm not going to convict them in my heart or in my mind. Sarah says they don't take antidepressants. That involves a real doctor. 100%. Actually, we know that about Kendra. Poor Kendra. She has like some issues. I don't know for sure. Some people are saying it's thyroid issues, and she like wouldn't take the medication for it. She wanted to do like IVs, vitamin B, get all those vitamins. Although I do like vitamin IVs. I do like it. It's something that I've done in the past. I don't think it like cures anything. But it's interesting to me to know that maybe some of these people could really benefit from modern medicine and they're refusing it, Umbrella Nation. They blame the woman for every failure of the man. It's so sad to see secular people doing that. Oh, that's exactly what I feel, because I have so many people in my life and on my channel who come here and I know they're not from, they don't have a background in any kind of fundamentalist religion, and they still look at it and say like, she knew what was going on, and I'm not, maybe she did. I don't know everything about what went on behind the scenes. Okay, Shu says, I have a limited amount of empathy for her, but that empathy ends where others start getting negatively impacted, mainly her children and the animals under her care. Yeah, that's what a lot of people are saying, especially like in the Reddit. People are very concerned about Anna's kids. It is interesting that Kendra's children were like immediately taken away. I told you before that I think the police learned from what happened with Anna Duggar, because I think that when they arrested Josh, they gave Anna like a lot of time and she was able to kind of go underground, protect the kids, get things cleaned up, get a lawyer, make sure that the kids weren't interviewed. The police department kind of had changed their tactics this time around, and they very quickly went in there, like got in the home, looked at what was happening with the kids, got it all, pictures were taken, statements were taken before Kendra could really do anything about it. And therefore they were able to find something to, to take to court for her, and I really have, I can't go down that. This is going to get too long if I talk about how worried I am about Kendra, how I think that she, I still need to see the evidence that comes out, but I believe that Kendra had a special needs child and that a lot of things they have put into her, a lot of things that they want to take her down for, like having a messy house or having locks on the doors. Some of those things might be because you have a child with special needs that you're struggling with taking care of. Am I telling you that I think it's okay to put locks on doors? No. Have I used a lock on a door to keep my child safe? I have a child with special needs. Yes, it may not have been exactly what Kendra was doing. We had like a safety lock or whatever, but I can go down a whole rabbit hole telling you how long I struggled with whether or not I was going to do it, why I did it, and why I believe it was the right thing to do. And it did keep my child safe, So I have a lot of concerns about what they're trying to do to Kendra and what will happen to her in the future. I really hope I don't find out that there was abuse going on in the home. I think that that's going to be earth-shattering and really change how I feel about a lot of these people in the family. Ivana says, all over the news, the women get vilified, the wives or the moms, and men seem to get a pass for their behavior. Yes. Okay. So, I got my emails. These are emails between Anna Duggar and Josh Duggar from a long time ago, guys. I hope people understand that. This is from 2022. It's like right after Josh went to prison, and things are still kind of fresh for Anna and Josh. I get my emails from Lily Archive. I love Lily Archive on YouTube. Without a Crystal Ball also got them. They did FOIA requests. I highly prefer Lily Archive. I just picked a couple of emails which don't have any of the salacious stuff in them, because it is true that in some of the emails, they're getting like kind of hot and heavy in the way that like very immature young teenagers who are from the IBLP might do. And those are not the emails that I chose to look at. I just want to go through some of the psychology of what I see going on here. This is an email to Josh from Anna, I believe. Okay. So one thing for me, when I looked through the emails, and those of you who have read them, like I'd love to hear your opinion on it. For me, when I read through the emails, I felt like I was listening to someone who's 16 years old. This is the writing of people. I actually thought Josh seemed way more immature than Anna. That's my opinion. I thought I was listening to someone who's like 16 years old, doesn't have any other interests in their life, like no real interest in their life other than talking about how God is going to save all of us and we got to stick with him. Right? There's no like talk about, oh, I read a book today. This is what it was about. Like things that you and I might talk to our partner about. I mean, I hate to think about like having a partner in prison, but if I was like emailing them and, we were talking about things, a lot of it would be about my kids. It would be about my passions in life. Like, oh, I was looking at this like horrible thing that happened with the Iran war. And, it would be like stuff that I actually care about. To me, I feel like I'm looking at high schoolers who have nothing to talk about, but like, oh my God, I love you. I just love you, And then there's a lot of talk about Christ and there's some complaining. There's an awful lot of complaining about how no one around them is supporting them or helping them. But the biggest takeaway from me is just how immature they really seem. But I'm going to tell you, especially Josh for me, I'm interested in knowing what other people who have read these emails, what you thought, because that was my biggest takeaway. I feel like I'm watching two 16-year-olds like writing each other notes in class back when I was, in the 90s or whatever, and like passing each other notes. There's no, for me, it's like there's no way to look at these people like they're grown-up humans. Royal says, Lily is great. I crack up hearing her read the naughty emojis. Yeah, there were definitely some really naughty emojis. The compulsive use of sex emojis from Josh will never stop disturbing, Yeah, and I can see how, I do take into account, like he's in prison, so there's going to be some of this in their emails. There are other people who probably have way more salacious emails than these two. But for me reading it, it's like a very immature couple. Josh is extremely spoiled, very entitled and immature, in my opinion. Yeah, you definitely see that in these emails. Okay. Anna says, happy anniversary. Happy anniversary, sweetheart. It's hard to believe that 16 years ago we met. What an adventure we have been on. Can you imagine? This is someone trying to pretend like they're not in some kind of a hell, because they're living in hell. Anna's life is hell, in my opinion. At this point in time in 2022, shortly after her husband goes to prison and she's having to raise the kids by herself and she's living with her in-laws who basically like hate her. Her life is hell. And she says, what an adventure we've been on. That's some adventure, Anna. Now she says, it's been a rough day. Anna, I'm willing to say all your days are rough, girl. Like sing it from the mountaintop. You were left alone with, I don't even know, 10 children. Somebody tell me how many kids she has. Left alone with all these children alone. You don't even send them to school. You homeschool them. You have no man in your life. You're now responsible for all the financial crap. We know from the emails that the Duggar family is having her come to the big house. I don't know if she's living like in this back warehouse. I'm not sure. They're having her come to the big house and like help with the young kids, do some cleaning up. Like she's essentially almost like a slave to them. She didn't deserve this. And when I read these emails and she's still like, what an adventure. I just think, oh my God, Anna, it's sad. It's sad. She's not able to express like, I'm so effing disgusted with you. Even if she doesn't believe, because I'll tell you this, even if I thought something insane had happened and my husband was, unfairly imprisoned and all this shit happened with him that was unfair. Even if I felt that, my emails would still be like, I can't do this. I'm alone with 10 kids. I'm afraid. I'm sad. I have no time to myself. I couldn't even take a shower yesterday. 3 of the kids are sick. I mean, I would be expressing, real life to my husband. I would be expressing my anger towards him. I mean, even if I felt he was innocent, I'd be like, I can't do this anymore. Help me. You get on the phone. Josh Duggar, if I believe you're innocent, whatever, you get on the phone to your parents and you call them and tell them they need to treat me right. You get on the phone to your friends and you have them come over and help me because these are your kids and I am drowning, right? But Anna says, it's been a rough day. I miss you so much. I miss all the things, so many dreams, so many things we were supposed to be doing right now. That's really sad to me. When I read the emails, I felt very depressed and sad about them. I really initially felt very sad for Anna. That's why I didn't make videos about them, because I knew about them before the Joe Duggar stuff came out. And I just felt like it was so private and sad and gross. I suck really hard on it. It was so private and sad and gross that I didn't really talk about it. Or I'd read like a part of the email and then I'd just be like, I'm done. I'm not reading it anymore because it made me so sad. Okay, so she says there's so many things we're supposed to be doing right now, like moving to the Bennett house. So they were like, getting a home ready for themselves and their family. That was all taken away from her. I don't understand why we are where we are. Now, I think Umbrella Rebellion can speak to this. Like, one situation with Anna and people who grew up in this kind of fundamentalist, because it's all intertwined. It doesn't have to be IBLP, but there's a lot of different sects that are intertwined here. They believe that God, like, that he gives you what you deserve, right? So I'm sure that a lot of this is very hard for Anna, who's sitting here like, I know Josh is innocent, or what he did wasn't that bad, and I'm a good person, and I've done everything my family's asked of me for 20 years now. I married this guy because they told me this was the right thing to do when I was bringing Christianity to the world via TLC. Why is God punishing me? And I think people around her, someone that might have like supported Anna or believed in her, but they're part of this religion. They're going to say, look, Josh is in prison because God wants him in prison. He must have committed the crime because God wouldn't have allowed this to happen. He would not be giving Josh these consequences if it wasn't what he deserved, if it wasn't what you deserve, right? Or, they can kind of turn it around and say, well, he's doing it to make us stronger. But we're talking 20 years in prison, 15 years in prison. I mean, I don't know how much stronger you're going to be able to get with that. Ivana says, my friend, the women are taught not to complain 100%. But there's got to be a breaking point, right, Ivana? Am I going crazy when I say that? Your husband's in prison. I can't imagine. I could see myself, because I have my own background. My family has their own background in some of these crazy types of religions. I have family who come from the Mennonite religion. I've talked about that a lot here. And I do have people in my family in the IBLP. I still feel like you can be a part of that. And when situations change, you can critically think about it and make changes to yourself. It's amazing to me that Anna, stubborn, hard-headed, she is not giving in here, right? Like, she's flat out like, I'm going to make the best of it, no matter what. Umbrella Rebellion. 3 reasons for trials. 1, God is testing your faith. 2, you did something to deserve it. 3, God is allowing Satan to attack you. Okay, great. So this is good to see. Thank you so much for adding all of this. Yeah, so that's true. Anna could be sitting there like, no, Satan's trying to come at us. I do think people around them, and we're going to see some of that as we look at the AMA, there's people around them that I think really believed that, Josh was guilty. They were still willing to be there for Anna, but they're like, look, Josh is guilty. There's nothing we can do about this. Okay. So they didn't get to move to the Bennett house. And she says, I don't understand why we are where we are. It doesn't seem fair. It doesn't make sense. I know I can trust God. This is like a huge part of their emails. Sometimes I get so tired of it. I know we can trust God. I know he sees the bigger picture. I hope we learn from this. My prayer for you is that you will love God with all your heart, obey him, and serve him passionately. I do think that Anna was like a big part. We don't see it so much in the emails, but it's something that I've heard brought up by people who supposedly have family members who are in with Josh. Anna and Josh kind of look at this like an opportunity for Josh to lead people in prison to Jesus, because Josh has always been a shining star. So why wouldn't he be a shining star in prison as well? You know, now he's just going to take all that charisma and give it to the inmates around him. I'm praying that God will heal the pain in your heart. I feel like you haven't had a very fair shake at life. I know there's a lot of pain that you stuff or close off and choose to forget. Okay, I'm going to address this. I'm making this video pretty long, but and this is why people hate me. I have spoken out about how I feel like Josh Duggar and other people like him, including Joe Duggar, they also have been raised in a very toxic environment for their own well-being, okay? Because people oftentimes want to be like, I can't believe what the women went through. The men have all the power in this situation. But I really feel like many times the men were being put in situations that were even more toxic than, it's hard. You can't compare apples and oranges. But they were being placed in abusive situations that allowed them to not grow into very good people. I've talked extensively about how, I think it was the Holt family that described the Duggar house when Josh was younger. There were like 3 bedrooms. You've got all the boys living in one bedroom on bunk beds, all the girls living in another bedroom on bunk beds. Mom sleeps on the couch. Jana sleeps with her. Dad sleeps in the other room. The way that the setup was for a teenage boy, I was like, this is not healthy. Okay, it's not healthy. The things that they did, the way that they were raising their kids, it wasn't fair to Josh. People don't want to hear that. They don't want to talk about it. But I think if we're actually going to try to prevent additional abuse from happening, specifically SA, specifically what's going on with Joe Duggar, we need to recognize that actually these boys are more effed up than a lot of the girls in this system some of the time. These boys need intensive intervention. I remember listening to this podcast, I Pray You Put Your Journal Away. I think the guy actually took it down. It was an amazing podcast. And I couldn't help. He was from the IBLP, grew up around the Duggars. He also talked about their living situation. I remember him saying that he would go into the house. Josh is a teenager at this point in time. Go into the house and there would just be dirty diapers everywhere. Kids running around naked, and Jana's wrangling them to put clothes on them. And you've got a 16-year-old, eldest boy in this house being raised with all these IBLP beliefs. Like, who else was he going to become but the man before us? The intervention, it can't leave out helping these men who are seen as like having all the power. Like, they're effed up. Look at all these people. We just had the Holt family. I'm not going to go into it too much, but the Holts were looked at as like their heroes. I really liked Mama Holt. So I'm not going to talk about this too much, but the Holt family, they were on Shiny Happy People. Mama Holt testified in the trial against Josh. People really saw her as a hero. And recently, maybe I think 2 years ago, it came out that the father was arrested. I think he punched someone in the face, one of the kids in the face. These men need intensive help, intensive intervention. There is something wrong here. It's just like, it's really hard for me, and this is just my opinion, it's really hard for me to see so much focus going towards, or just you're not allowed to say, like, there's a problem here for the boys as well. They need compassion. They need help. It's not fair that they grew up this way. They need to be able to, get some counseling. Okay, Shu says, I Pray You Put This Journal Away is still available on Spotify. Thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that. People should go and listen to that because that's one of the most amazing podcasts I've listened to. Let me go up a little bit. Leaving Eden is also great with Sadie. They do a great job. Of course, Umbrella Rebellion has her channel, and she's on Instagram as well. Okay, so let's get back here and we'll finish this email real quick and then we'll go to the next one. Okay, so she's telling him like God's going to be there for you. I feel like you haven't had a fair shake at life. I actually agree with that. Many people, I mean, of course, Josh was held up as being like the eldest kid and given money and given homes. But I also think that what he went through as a child, the way that he was raised, it really placed him into a psychological kind of like tornado. And it created a very narcissistic person, right? You don't realize that pain is affecting you every day of your life. You are striving so much to please your dad. Now, I find this interesting. I do think that Josh is the kind of person who wanted his dad to give him all the accolades, but I always felt like Josh thought he was like 100 times smarter than his dad, better than his dad, and he was going to do more than his dad with his life. And I think he was very angry when it turned out he wasn't going to be able to do any of that, and his dad was always going to be far ahead of him. And his dad moved on from Josh being the star child and picked another son to be the star child. Many people say that it's Jed. I don't know if that's the case or not. Okay. God created you in his image. Let go of being a Duggar and whatever that means in your mind. This is sad to me. At this stage, I do think Anna was like so fed up with the Duggar family. A lot of the emails reflect that she was like, I'm basically a slave to them. I don't like them. Focus on how amazing the God who created the universe is. He created you. He has a plan for your life. He promises if you need wisdom, ask for it, and he will give it generously. Learn to hear his voice. The voices of your dad, your brother-in-laws, and your siblings have been primarily negative since you were 10 years old. And Joshua, who they say you are, is not who you are. Find your identity in who Jesus says you are. On a brighter note, I love the way you smile at me, the look in your eyes, all the fun we have behind closed doors once the house is quiet. Joshua, you are thoughtful, kind, sensitive, so much fun. You give me butterflies. I love being with you, hearing your voice, feeling your touch. And she goes on and then she says, like, love, Anna. Yeah. Let's see what she says. Umbrella Rebellion says, Anna was complaining about doing stuff around the house while Michelle was schooling her 5-ish school-age kids. Yeah, definitely. That was something that came up in the emails. Umbrella Rebellion says, I think Jim Bob and Michelle tried to give him so many opportunities to succeed, which actually enabled him. Yeah. They definitely would have something happen with Josh, something very bad, like finding out that he molested one of his siblings. And then they would be like, okay, what can we do for him? We'll send him on the road with Jim Holt where he can like learn a lot of political stuff and then he'll become a politician, you know? So I agree with what you're saying regarding that Umbrella Rebellion, but I think you can give kids a lot of things. You can take a child and say that they're the best child in the bunch and they're the most important to you. You can do all of those things and they still don't become like Josh Duggar. I really believe that Josh's inappropriate feelings towards children, and this comes from my work with kids who do offend, and I've worked with some adults who offend as well. I think a lot of it comes from growing up in a house that inappropriate boundaries, 110% inappropriate boundaries. You're the oldest child. You're being given a lot of responsibility and power in a family that is not holding to the boundaries the way that you're supposed to. Sometimes the boundaries were too tight there, but then you throw them in this very small house with naked kids running around, and all the kids have to be in these very small rooms with locks outside of the doors. I mean, these are just things that led to an inappropriate way of looking at sexuality, and I don't think it was fair to Josh. It's a big, big issue. Mama says they didn't give him opportunities to fail, be accountable, and learn from mistakes. You know, and I think that's true. They did allow him, they did give him some consequences for things that happened within the house, but they only did it within their family system, and their family system was already so effed up, inappropriate, poor boundaries, that the choices that they made, the consequences that they gave him just effed him up more, you guys. We know that part of what they did when Josh, I think it was when he was inappropriate with his sisters, they sent him to a family friend and he had to like dig holes, physical labor. We don't know what happened at that house. We don't know what kind of other like psychological intervention was there. What happened, you know? I don't even think Jim Bob and Michelle could tell us what happened. We sent him to do physical labor, you know? Well, was somebody watching him? Did he wander off into a field and find a porn magazine, you know, when he was supposed to be digging a hole? There's just so much that happened to this kid that kind of is like a really dangerous mystery, you know, like most of us wouldn't just send our kids to some random person. Okay, let's go to the next email. So this is from an anniversary. Of course, it always seems like Anna's reaching out. She wants some affection from Josh. And yeah, I think that there's also some emails what I thought was kind of sad where like, Michelle is reminding Josh to wish Anna a happy Mother's Day. And I felt really sad about that because I was kind of like, you know, poor Anna. I mean, she's just doing all of the work. She's doing all the work. And Josh basically sits on his ass in a cell. You know, I'm sure it's not fun to be there, but you do have a lot of time on your hands, right? I mean, I've worked in facilities like this, so I know that if he wanted to become a better husband while he was there, even if he did all this shit, even if he committed this crime, if he wanted to try to be there for Anna, he could. He could be the one who's like, oh, Mother's Day is coming up. I painted a card for you in my cell when I had like 4 hours where I was doing nothing. You know, he could become a very enraptured husband who calls all the time and wants to spend all his time with you and sends you love notes. You know, I don't see that. I do see him asking for some kind of sexual connection with Anna, and I think that's why he writes to her, but I don't see him actually being there for her in any way, and she just kind of accepts it. All right, this is, I think, an email that Josh wrote. I'm only going to read the bottom of it, okay? I'm only going to read a little bit of it, and this does have a gross emoji in it. Why, God? I don't understand, but I know that I'm learning. Really, I have learned already what I should have done. Please see my heart of humility on this. I hope you can see what I'm saying here. I love you. Your heart aches and mine is with you because I didn't listen to you. I will make changes that I can, and I can't change what others have done that put me in here. Thank you for being my cheerleader. Okay, this is a long email. I'm not reading the whole thing. I'm just reading the bottom of it for you. I might make some other videos about it. But here we have Josh Duggar. The crux of a lot of the emails that he writes to Anna are all about like, why me? This isn't fair. Everyone else did this to me. And though I do think that things were done to Josh that are not fair, and I've said that, I've talked about it, especially when he was a child under the age of 18, I do not like how the Duggars really were inappropriate. They were inappropriate with those kids. Okay. Okay. So, before the age of 18, there's just a lot of things that I think, yeah, I mean, Josh has a right to say, like, the way I grew up was really toxic and I'm hurting and I need help. You know, he has a right to say those things, but to turn his whole entire life around, he left Arkansas and moved to DC, you know, in the middle of, he lived in Oxon Hill, which is, I live in DC, so I'm very aware of Oxon Hill. He lived in Oxon Hill, so that's outside of the DC area. But, you know, he had opportunities there to, like, he and Anna could have changed their lives around, you know, if they wanted to get away from what the Duggars had done. And instead, he used that time to just continue a facade of, like, I'm a Christian man, I'm bringing religion to politics. He put on a total facade about that. And then behind the scenes, he was literally visiting prostitutes throughout the Washington, D.C. area. And here he says, why, God? I don't understand. And I mean, these are things that he's admitted to. He's admitted to the affairs and the prostitution, right? So you're not innocent. When you say, why, God? If nothing else, you know that you have done some really inappropriate things. You know, you have really hurt Anna. And to be emailing her and be like, thank God you're my cheerleader. It's like you need to be falling on your knees and doing whatever you can. And he's not even at that point because he hasn't accepted his guilt, and neither has Anna. This was a really long email. I'm not going to go over the whole thing. I want to get to the next one where Anna says some stuff that I just think is kind of interesting. Okay. This is Anna writing to Josh. Okay. And this is where she's going to talk a little bit about her relationship with the Duggars and what's going on with her. And I do find it really sad. Let me take a quick sip. Okay, so Anna writes to Josh, "Hey, sweetie, it's been a rough day. I'm really discouraged. I also really love you. I just, apart from God's grace, don't know how I'm going to make it through. I feel like the world is closing in on me. There's so much pressure on all sides." This was a really devastating email for me. There's so much pressure on all sides, judgment on all sides, constant critiquing and condemnation on all sides. Your parents have moved on. They have their own life, plenty of other kids who are doing great, and I'm responsible to get it all done. And if it's not perfect, they're going to chew me out and let me know. They'll judge me. I'll be forbidden from the house if I have a less than perfect reaction. They can say and do whatever they want. They can hurt me over and over and over again, and they're never held accountable. I just want to be done being hurt, done being judged, done with being pounded on for everything I do. The constant judging, the constant critiquing all happens while I'm making their dinner, washing their laundry, mopping their floors, and doing their dishes. I have served like no other daughter-in-law, and probably more than any daughter besides, and I'm thinking she says besides Jana, but they blacked it out. There's nothing to show for no love, no support, just constant demands. When I read this, I was really sad for Anna. And keep in mind, this is happening right after Josh goes to prison, you guys. Okay. So she's just in the midst of having lost everything, of living alone, being alone, really only having her immediate family around. Now, we do know that a couple of Anna's siblings, I think it was her brother, kind of publicly came out and stated, like, Anna can come and live with me. I remember when I touched on this in some of my older videos, I put out there that one of the issues with that is that the brother specifically who said, Anna, come live with me, had a bunch of kids himself, no money. And now I know people will say, well, that doesn't matter, but I don't know how much of that was lip service to kind of come out there and be like, get away from Josh, come, we'll take care of you down here. And it's like, Anna has 8 kids or whatever that she has to take care of. So I don't think her options were looking very good. And her parents, they were still living in some kind of, it's an impoverished family, and they still had younger kids. So I think, although I don't think I would have made the choices that Anna made, I think it's sad that she chose to just kind of stay with the Duggars. And I think she chose it because she knew there was money there. She knew that they could take care of her financially. I can also understand being scared to leave the safety of the Duggar home where they're going to be able to financially care for you. Okay. Umbrella Rebellion says, this email definitely shows how controlling Jim Bob is. The men's manual series I started shows that it is how IBLP wanted multi-generational control. Is this on YouTube or on Instagram? I want to specifically go and take a look at it. Check out Umbrella Rebellion, and it looks like she's doing a series on the men's manual, and how this created like how this was like upholding a kind of multi-generational control. So Jim Bob's still like the head of the household. That's crazy. She says that's going to be the same situation for Kendra too. Her family won't be able to support her financially. Well, we know Kendra's family, that is just a whole other story, right, Shu? I mean, they are literally coming forward to the public and really throwing Kendra under the bus. I mean, they have their own things that they're dealing with, but I don't see them as being people she can turn to. Okay, yes, on playlists, on YouTube, I have a playlist. Go to Umbrella Rebellion on YouTube and check out the playlist. I really want to see some of that. So maybe I'll take a look later and respond to it. That would be cool. Okay. Ivana says, didn't they want control of the government as well, Umbrella? I mean, they were getting very involved in politics, right? Okay. User says, hopefully this is a wake-up call for Anna not to rush and try to get pregnant when Josh is released, since she has the potential to be a single mom again. Oh my God. I can't even think about the time when Josh is released at this point in time. All I think to myself right now is how sad it is that she lives alone, in a back warehouse, and she has to come up to the front house and clean up after, her husband's siblings who are still like 5 years old. And then I do wonder, what her relationship was like with Jana. People say it wasn't that good. And one issue that I really saw with all of it is people have said that Jana, you guys remember when a child escaped from the big house and ran out into the street, the police went to the big house and Jana is the one that opened the door. And then therefore she was held accountable for having to babysit the kids. And people have said, we don't know this for sure, but people have said that the child that escaped was one of Anna's children. And this was during the trial. And I just always wondered if maybe there was just a lot of, I wonder if if Jana was really hurt by the fact that once again, her brother kind of fucked up someone's life, put Jana in a situation where she, essentially got in trouble for not watching a child. I wondered if her and Anna butted heads over it. I mean, just the stuff that went on in this house was so sad. I remember going over Jana getting that. Okay, let's take a look at the AMA. This AMA is from 4 years ago. It's a verified friend of Anna's family. This was another email. I just wanted to point out, this is an email that Anna sends to Josh, okay? This is the last one that I wanted to show you. And she's basically telling Josh, I feel like at this point, she's kind of accepted, I guess maybe he did commit this crime. She doesn't say that, but she sends him some kind of a PDF about an article involving someone else who did a similar crime to Josh, but got a lot less time. And Anna's basically saying, this is ridiculous. She says, thank you for sending this, lover. All I saw last night was the one message about 151 months, and I laid in bed praying and calculating. And so they're kind of talking about that. I think there's a little bit more to this. Let me let it go on. No, but the email was essentially Josh and Anna going back and forth. Okay. And they're talking about how it was so unfair that Josh got so much time. I kind of looked at it and thought it was crazy. I was talking to someone recently. You guys remember Todd Chrisley? He was put in prison for tax evasion. And I did a video about how when I went down the rabbit hole, I just assumed he was guilty. And when I went down the rabbit hole about what actually happened to him, it turned out that there were all these people in political positions who have a major reason to dislike Todd Chrisley. And they are the ones who went after him, who found all this evidence about his tax issues. And in my video, I show it's really questionable what happened here. Although I was concerned about how he got out of prison, early, I actually came to believe that he might be innocent of a lot of the things that he was charged with. I am on a train of believing that people threw him under the bus simply because they had personal issues with him and they had the power to do it. Todd Chrisley was initially given more time in prison than Josh Duggar, you guys. And that was, for tax evasion. I mean, that's crazy to me. Okay. So this was an AMA on Reddit. You can go to Duggar Snark and check out a lot of their AMAs. Sometimes they're hard to find. I think I ended up talking to this person through email at one point. This was a long time ago. They did this AMA 4 years ago. Okay. They grew up around Anna and her family, and they just had a lot of interesting things to say about Anna's childhood. And I found it really interesting because it kind of gave me a look from an outsider's perspective of who Anna was back then. So the first question that they were asked is, what is Anna like personality wise? And Throwaway says, she used to be really sassy and funny and outgoing. Okay. Throughout the AMA, this friend describes Anna as being bossy, as being stubborn, and having an extremely happy childhood, despite the fact, and she recognizes, like, they didn't have a lot of money and they were growing up in this like quiverful type of religious institution. She said that Anna was, overall just a pretty happy girl. She was also asked, how does one escape the quiverful cult? Okay. And do you think it's possible for Anna at this point in time? And this was after Josh was found guilty. And Throwaway says, I genuinely don't know if it's possible for her specifically at this point. I know if she wanted to, she could leave tomorrow. All she has to do is ask. I'm interested in what Umbrella Rebellion would have to say about that. I think, she did have siblings who left. She has a sibling who's actually very wealthy, Susanna, with her private jet, who we saw on 19 Kids and Counting. She had a brother who left and said, like, she can come and live with me. You can leave Josh. But then she also has her sister Priscilla, who as a Waller is still very involved in, fundamentalist religion. Anna was very close with Priscilla and David Waller, as was Josh. So, and I believe that Anna was raised to think that it would be a major failure for her to leave Josh. Even if she came to believe that Josh did all this, I think that her father kind of raised her to be like, even if someone committed a crime, I'm going to take you to the prison and we're going to minister to them. And once they repent, they repented. I think as long as they accept Jesus and repent and they don't have an abortion, we can forgive them and you should stay with that man. And I think that was what was happening in Anna's mind. That's what she was thinking. So this person says, all she has to do is ask, but getting to the point of knowing that's an option is almost impossible with the type of brainwashing that she's received over her lifetime. So sad. Let me see. Okay, BC says, David Waller should be put into question about his letter supporting Josh and his position as a pastor. Yeah, that was an interesting letter. I read it on one of my old videos. David is an interesting person. Umbrella Rebellion says, I don't know what support she would have if she left. It just depends on who she is close to and who she would lose if she left, for sure. David Waller was Bill Gothard's number 2 and witnessed his abuse. And wasn't, I've always wondered about Priscilla. Wasn't Priscilla one of the girls who basically worked very closely with Bill Gothard? Yeah, I did a whole video about this. This is how David and Priscilla met. Priscilla was working with Bill Gothard. She was a Gothard girl. They called it Gothard Girls Umbrella Rebellion. You probably know all this. What am I telling you? Yeah, you're right. And David Waller was there, and that's how they met. And I've often wondered, like, how Bill Gothard was with Priscilla. Like, I've oftentimes wondered that. Okay, let's make this big again. Okay. All right, so let's go to the next set of questions that they were asked. Okay, if one of the tenets of the ATI and Quiverful is to infiltrate all forms of American life, why is it that so many ATI folks don't successfully run for office? And I just thought this was really interesting. So this person is asking, like, a big part of what the IBLP was doing is trying to raise people to become politicians, and they never really succeed. A lot of them don't run for office. And Anna's childhood friend says they're afraid of all of their skeletons, and wow, the closets are full. And Umbrella Nation can certainly speak to that, or Umbrella Rebellion can certainly speak to that. And we saw that for sure on the Shiny Happy People documentary. Let's go a little further. Did everyone involved, both the Kellers and the Duggars, really believe that getting him to marry Anna would fix him? Okay. Anna's childhood friend says, yes, absolutely. It seems like the Duggar parents probably wanted to find him a person who could finally fulfill his sexual needs, and then they would stop worrying about him molesting his siblings. Do you know how Anna's siblings feel regarding Josh and Anna currently staying with him? Any insight into the Keller siblings dynamic? Most of them, and the friend says, most of them are pretty tight-lipped, but there are those that wish she would leave. And after the first sibling molestation, Ashley Madison thing happened, multiple siblings tried to get her out. I know the brother was really big on that when the Ashley Madison thing came down. If you don't know, I did a whole video about really like showing pictures and videos of Anna. Maybe I'll have to find it, maybe link it down below when this is over. But it was about her family growing up. And I really wanted to show that there were all these siblings and they've taken very different paths. There's Susanna, who I believe left the fundamentalist faith and married someone who was very successful financially. She has a private jet. She lives a pretty, stabilized life. There's another sister whose name I forget, and I really focused on her in the video. She ended up, and we're actually going to talk about her. There's some questions about her here. She ended up moving to somewhere in Africa with her husband, who wanted to be a minister, who she did not want to marry. She seemed to not want to marry. She seemed very unhappy about the whole situation. They have like 13 kids. They live in like a hut in the middle of nowhere. And I mean like poverty-stricken Africa. There's been times when like one of the kids broke a leg and they had to fly home to get help for that because there's no help, where they live. They are living a very hard life. And many people have said that there's indications that maybe the sister has really struggled with that. But she has remained steadfast, staying with her man and her 13 kids, living in a hut in Africa. You've got a lot. There's a wide range of what these siblings chose to do with their lives. And it's almost like Anna, like as horrible as Anna's situation is, like there are other people in her family who are living hard situations as well. Okay. Umbrella Rebellion. I did a video recently about how the Duggars used the Holt's daughter to try and put Joshua's focus on an appropriate age girl. Yeah. Okay, so Umbrella Rebellion is talking about the Holt family. I did some videos a long time about them. Kaylee Holt was the daughter that's come out. I think it's really sad, everything that's come out about Kaylee, because she wanted to stay private. But unfortunately, a lot of that was disseminated through social media. And initially, the Duggars had kind of betrothed, when they were very young, Kaylee and Josh to each other. And there's just a lot of really effed up toxic stuff that happened with all of that. At first, I was like really glad. I thought, I was looking for a hero. I thought Mama Holt was kind of a hero. She went on Sojo Files. I love Sojo Files. So I was a big fan of Mama Holt. She testified and gave Jill a hug during the trial. I'm not saying I'm still not a fan of her. I'm just saying that it turns out that the Holt family were also creating a certain identity for themselves, showing us what they wanted us to see. But behind closed doors, we at least know that there was some physical abuse going on in that family. Some pretty hardcore, sad stuff was happening. Since then, I'm not going to talk about all the allegations that have been made, but on social media, there's been a lot of allegations about what went on behind closed doors, who all of the daughters were married off to. And it's just a really sad situation. And it's part of why I am looking so critically at the Caldwells, and people don't like that about me. They want me to kind of act like the only villain here is Joe Duggar, lock him up and throw away the key, and he's disgusting. And I'm asking a lot of questions about the people around him, the other people that were involved in this situation, because I learned from the first trial, I'm sorry, there's a lot more going on here than what is presented to us out front, especially what's presented to us through social media. Rena Rue, it's so good to see you. I miss you. I love you, Rena. It's good to see you. I'm glad you came along. All right, let's go back to this. Make it big. Okay. All right, let's go a little further. Next question. When it comes to the courtship, was there a feeling that Anna had married well because of the TV show? Or was there a feeling that she was just the first girl to say yes to him in the IBLP crowd? Now we do know, and Umbrella Rebellion just shared with us, there was at least one prior girlfriend. I think there were others too, but Kaylee Holt, had been essentially betrothed to Josh, and this was a pretty serious relationship. They did break it off, but it wasn't as though Anna was the only one, that was around. And so Anna's friend answers, I think in those circles, yes, it was viewed that she married well because of the TV show. And this is kind of a criticism that I would have towards Anna. I do think that even in the emails, a lot of what I see from Anna is that it's important to her to have a certain status, right? Like, I really see it as she stays with the Duggars partially because she wants the financial, protection. And there's a certain status that she has being with the Duggars as opposed to going back to her family who live in a trailer in the middle of nowhere. She didn't want to go back to living that way. I really believe that. I think that that's a part of who Anna is, her stubborn countenance, the way that she interacts with people. Part of it is like, I'm not going back to living in a camper. I'm going to do what I have to do for my kids. She dresses her kids a certain way. We saw the little video she put out, where they have this beautiful room and a little puppy, but they also have a beautiful dollhouse. I mean, it looks like Pottery Barn to me. This is something I saw with Kendra a lot too. Really dressing your kids a certain way, wanting to look as though you're Instagram worthy. So I've seen that with several of the girls. In those circles, yes, I think it was viewed that she married well because of the TV show. Power and visibility was more important than actual moral character. So all that mattered was she was marrying into a higher class family of power. Their families were connected by a mutual friend who actually wasn't really part of the IBLP world that much. So it was less about their IBLP circles overlapping and more about the setup. Yeah, I think they married into a family and got a lot out of having Anna be married to Josh. And just to think about, Anna moving from where she was, what she went through, to becoming the wife of a man who she thought was going to be like a famous politician in DC. I don't know if you guys remember, it's come up before, Anna had like work done too. That was interesting to me to watch her. I don't know if you remember on the show, I think they actually talk about her having her teeth done. But she didn't just have everything fixed. She had like basically veneers put on so she would look a certain way. I've heard, I cannot say this for sure, that there were some injections that were done while she was in DC. They wanted her to look a certain way as the wife of Josh Duggar, who they believe was going to be this next up and coming politician. This question is about Priscilla. If you don't know Priscilla, you won't get it, but I did do a whole video about her and David Waller and how they met. And Priscilla was a Gothard girl. Is Priscilla so naive and childlike in real life? And Anna's friend says 1,000,000,000,000,000%. Priscilla, they say, acts that way all the time. I did do a little bit of a video about it. There's a lot of rumors about what happened with Priscilla, but it is what it is. I think that's something that's kind of left up for your own personal interpretation. Okay. Question is, learning about the real Anna has really broken my heart and opened my eyes. Your description of the wedding night side room deflowering. Okay, we might see this later. But Anna's friend who's doing this AMA, she attended Anna Duggar, Josh Duggar wedding. Okay. And people are going to ask her, I think it's going to come up later. People ask her, like, was Anna still a virgin for her wedding? And this friend says, yeah, she was a virgin until they went back. Like, after they kissed, they went back to a side room and things were taken care of there. Now, does she really know that for sure? I guess it's a rumor, but I think she feels like I know it. So this person says, learning about the real Anna has really broken my heart and opened my eyes. Your description of the wedding night side room deflowering and the idea of what happened later for her is horrifying. I did do a video about that. A lot of people have said that the IBLP's rules about what to do on the first nights that they're together during their honeymoon, it's really sad and scary. It can be really hard for the female. Anna looked worn out after the honeymoon. That's something that people comment on a lot. But, it's hard to know what was going on for people. But many people have speculated that Josh was just a really terrifying person who had a lot of ideas about different things he wanted to do in the bedroom, and he had Anna go along with it. So this person says, I imagine part of her left then. What was it like watching her change? The story about her sister and dying to yourself is terrible. We're going to hear about that later too. Does it really play out like that, where the change is very stark, very fast, or was there a slower change in Anna's personality after marriage? So she's asking, like, how did you see Anna change after marriage? Okay, so this friend from childhood says, it was a sudden and jarring change. Watching someone having to go through that and become a person you know that they aren't deep down. It is heartbreaking. And as a young girl watching that and knowing it was your future was absolutely terrifying. Wow, that's really scary. So it's kind of like she knew what was going on with Anna in the back room. She saw the changes in Anna and she was like, I don't want this to happen to me. She also got a question asking about her own involvement. She says, is your family still involved in the cult, and were you ever courted? And Anna's friend says, not ATI in particular, but some of my family is still part of that more extreme belief system. Some of my family is still in extreme denial. There was nothing wrong with it. And I am the one that left all of it. Okay, question. This is regarding Josh and Anna. Did they have an actual courtship, or was she just surprised into an engagement? And the friend says they had a courtship. If you define courtship as two families having back and forth negotiations without actual input from the girl involved. I mean, we kind of saw that on 19 Kids and Counting. Anna looked scared. Anna couldn't make eye contact. Anna seemed surprised by everything that was happening. We sort of saw that on the show. There was no wooing, but several weeks of phone calls with siblings, chaperones on the other line. I think that's even traumatic. I feel bad for the siblings that they have to chaperone this crap. I mean, it's just so toxic the way the families do this. The friend also said their family wasn't allowed to court before 20, but the goal was to be engaged at 20 immediately. I remember, I actually said this in one of the videos. Anna was like, I waited. My family, we were, a lot of girls get engaged at 17, 18, and I wanted to wait till I was older. So for her, it was like she waited to make this happen. But, she got engaged and married at 20. Their family wasn't allowed to court before 20, but the goal was to be engaged at 20 immediately. So they had everything prearranged so that at midnight, when she turned 20, she could be courting while he drove to Florida on purpose. Wow. All I can say is wow. The things they were up to. Oh my God. Umbrella Rebellion. You guys got to go over there. Umbrella Rebellion, you have to go live so we can ask you questions about this. She says, my 13-year-old little brother was my chaperone with my ex. Oh my gosh. You have to go live. And I'm going to tell us when you're going to be live so we can ask you questions about stuff like this. That's crazy. My 13-year-old brother was my chaperone with my ex. Ugh. It's just not the way to do it. Okay. According to the IBLP and the Pearls, who were promoted heavily by the IBLP, the wife cannot deny the husband sexually. I remember reading some of the Pearls stuff. They were crazy, really crazy. All right, let's go a little further. Umbrella Rebellion is the real thing. Check out her channel. She has a lot of information on there and a background in having gone through so much of this herself. Okay, people are also asking about the other siblings. So they asked, what are your thoughts on David Keller marrying Hannah Reber? If you guys were around during Josh's trial, the Rebers were housing Josh for a period of time. And then David Keller they were just like a random family that were like involved with Jim Bob, and they lived close to Jim Bob. And then I guess they housed Josh for a period of time. And then during that time, their daughter, Hannah, got engaged to David Keller. During the trial, in which and Hannah Reber, I don't know nothing about it. Like, I hope she's happy. I only saw like some pictures of her. She was a very cute girl. And it was just weird that it was like during the trial for CSAM, Hannah met the love of her life in David Keller, one of Anna's brothers. People said it's extremely sus, or the friend said it's extremely sus. All right. So this childhood friend was also asked, does the family, broader community actually buy into the Josh's innocent lie? Okay. And I thought this was interesting. The friend says, no, not at all. He's a creep. And if you spent 20 minutes with him, you would know it. Okay. This is where I want to say, I thought something that was really gross about the emails. If you guys saw this, let me know. In some of the emails, Josh is emailing with Anna's friend. I forget her name. But essentially, Anna's friend also has a husband who's locked up for something. I don't know if it's the same thing that Josh did, but he's locked up. And so Anna and this woman kind of become friends, but they're talking about how close they are because they know what each other are going through because both of their husbands are locked up. But Josh is emailing with the female portion of this deal. He's emailing back and forth with her. Now, I think that probably like Anna was like, Josh needs some friends. Like, can you email with my husband? He needs a friend, right? Okay. I'm guessing Anna set it up. I don't know why they would be doing it otherwise. But the girl that's emailing Josh, she seems pretty innocent. She's talking about her husband and how close she is with Anna, and they become really good friends. And she makes some comments about how her and Anna were laughing about the modesty swimsuits that Anna had to wear like on their honeymoon. I have pictures of that. We've seen pictures of this really weird swimsuit she had to wear. And the girl's like, Anna and I were laughing. And she seems really innocent, like Anna. She's like, Anna and I were laughing about the modesty swimsuits we had to wear. And then Josh Duggar's response to the girl, he just says some shit that just sounds totally inappropriate. It sounds sexual to me. It's weird to me. He doesn't flat out say anything sexual, but he basically says something like, yeah, that modesty swimsuit was funny. I definitely prefer more scantily clad swimsuits. He says something like that. And then he says, don't worry, later we had Anna wear something sexier in the bedroom. Something like that. I don't have it right in front of me. And he sends this to the woman that is friends with Anna. And to me, that was like, ding, 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 ding. Not only is that gross and everybody's going to be like, oh, he's so gross, but it also shows like how inappropriate, like this man, his family needed to intervene with him. He's inappropriate. And that's what people in DC were saying too. It's like he has a sleazy smile. He intimates things to you that you're just like, that's like weird. You're being weird. I get that's sexual. And you question yourself, like, is he being sexual? Because he is, he seems like very immature and has whatever else going on. But he would come off to people just from meeting him as like, something is wrong with this guy. And like, that's where I'm like, were the parents not seeing this? They should have been stepping in and saying he needs intervention from a young age. Something is wrong here. I could go on and on about what I've seen in these facilities with children who are, they have been convicted of a crime of SA, oftentimes against another child, right? And something that I've seen is just like, even though it's a very high percentage, something like 90% of these kids, they've also been offended against. What I have often seen is that it's not as though an actual assault occurred against the child. It could be that the parents were very inappropriate in front of the children. Maybe they had sexual relations in front of the kids, thinking that they're sleeping on the floor. They live in like a 1-bedroom, the very impoverished people live in like a 1-bedroom. All these kids are on the floor and they're being inappropriate in front of them. Those are forms of assault that people don't always know about. And I really believe that that's probably some of what happened to Josh growing up in his family. I just think that the Duggars had such effed up beliefs that, things might have happened that may not have been a direct, like, physical assault towards Josh, but there's inappropriate boundaries that lead a child to think that the world is just supposed to run in this really effed up way. I think as we continue to see that there are additional brothers who have these accusations made against them, I believe that something happened in that home that was very inappropriate. Okay. Does the family, broader community actually buy into the Josh is innocent? Not at all. He's a creep, and if you spend 20 minutes with him, you knew it. I think there are a couple of siblings who maybe think he could be innocent, but for the most part, it's widely accepted that he is not innocent. I remember that you guys, this was 4 years ago, like a little bit after he was put in prison. Okay. Make this big. And I know this is long. We have a few more to go through. Okay, what's the weirdest thing? Oh, this was interesting to me. Okay, so someone asked, what's the weirdest thing you've heard people in fundy circles do? Okay, and Anna's friend says Anna's older sister and her fiance held an end of a stick. I'm pretty sure this is the sister that ended up going to Africa. Held the end of a stick instead of holding hands because they weren't allowed to touch. But she was allowed to give him head massages because his hair was technically dead once it passed the hair follicle. Okay. And she does say that's not the most weird, but it was one of the stupidest things I heard of. I'm pretty sure this is the sister that ended up having to go to Africa. And we're going to see some more questions and answers about her that were kind of sad. I just can't even imagine. I don't get it. And they go on to talk about I just thought it was interesting that someone else goes on to talk about the Carters and how they did the same thing where they held a stick between people. They said Christina and Josh. They had a ruler that they used to use and hold on the other end. It's crazy. Okay, here's another question. One of my friends who knows the Wallers said that as their church leaned more conservative, it was infiltrated by several MLMs. Oh, I could go on and on about MLMs and unscientific beliefs. Many impoverished families lost a lot of money hoarding up useless MLM products in their homes, for sure. My friend has also sat through one of Paul Keller's preaching sessions. They said that Paul Keller doled out lots of questionable medical advice. Resentment causes cancer. As was the atmosphere in your church community similar? What was Paul Keller's craziest such belief? Okay, Anna's friend says Mike Keller had some truly, truly, truly bullshit beliefs. He definitely had weird beliefs about cancer and health and healing and such. And I've talked about, there were a lot of other people who were part of this circle who were ministers who preached the same stuff. He said that if you put diapers with Sesame Street designs on your babies, it will make them possessed and cry. Truly, it was in one ear and out the other with his bullshit like that, though, because it was nonstop. But think about it. If Anna was his daughter and trying to be like the superstar daughter, I mean, she may not have seen this as bullshit at all. He would pour rubbing alcohol on our wounds because that was the only way to actually clean it, he said. And you had to drink his magic potion. Oh, you had to drink his magic potion called barley green if you wanted to live a long and happy, healthy life. And you could also feed it to your dog and it would cure their cancer too. Mike Keller was not well educated. We know a lot of these people aren't well educated, but Mike Keller and his wife, I mean, when I did the video about them, they had a lot going on. And I think something was wrong with psychologically, something was very off about Mike Keller. Like he probably needed some intervention himself. Okay, next question. This is more of an overall funny question, not something specific to Anna. What was it like going from 0 to 100 on your wedding night? I couldn't imagine having my first time alone with the boy, my first kiss, my first sexual experience, all happening on the same night with everyone I know, knowing it's going on. This has to have some psychological damage. And I just thought it was sad and interesting that the friend said many people equate it to being ARD, because it's expected. I mean, everybody, even if you didn't want to do it, like, you're going to be told this is what you're supposed to do on this night. This is expected of you. And most of us like to have the free will to say no. What is Anna's relationship with her siblings now? The friend says she's still closest to Priscilla, which is convenient given her location. I do think Priscilla and David, they've just always been really close to Anna. And they spend a lot of times, like, they intermingle their kids. We've seen pictures of them together. I do not see Anna spending much time at all with the Duggar sisters. I haven't seen that. We can see in the letters that she's unhappy with a lot of the sisters. It's interesting to me that I don't think she had a good relationship with them. Did the Kellers go out of their way to hitch Anna to Josh because he was on TV, or would they have been happy to palm her off to any Tom, Dick, or Harry, or was the TV thing a bonus? The friend says, hell fucking yes. It was all about power and who you were connected to in the ATI, and her dad sold her off to the highest bidder. And that family did not have money. Some of the pictures I've shown in the videos, I mean, they were living hand to mouth. They were really struggling. And I think getting Anna in with Josh, and people have said, like, there was a general understanding that Josh had problems. So he wasn't going to be able to marry someone like Kaylee Holt, who was considered quite a prize and came from the good family. I think that they had to make some concessions as to who they were going to be able to pick for Josh. So they went down south. Anna's family did not attend all the IBLP conferences. You would think, like, the prince of IBLP families, Josh, who's on TLC, would have his choice of women. But I think they did have to look at finding someone that they thought could really, they would need Josh, would be grateful for him, would stay with him forever, has a background in helping people who go to prison and, you know, commit crimes. They had to find someone like that for him. Question, was she genuinely happy in life? If so, did she seem like that after her marriage as well? And I just thought this was interesting that the friend said she was genuinely happy throughout her childhood. And that was a theme throughout these questions, that the friend was like, her childhood, even though they were impoverished, she seemed really happy. And she said, as much as she could be in the circumstances we were raised with. And then we already saw that she said things really changed for Anna after she got married. She did not seem like the same person anymore. Question, do people in the quiverful movement proactively seek attention and or enjoy the spotlight, especially after the success of the multiple TV shows? And the friend says they believe that the more good things that happen to you, it's a sign of God's blessing on your life. So if you're more visible, most holy, whatever, it means that you're even closer to God. Cults attract narcissists is what it really boils down to. So you already have people coming in who would already be narcissistic. So of course they're going to want to get on a TV show. And you know, then you have all this stuff happening on TLC, and it makes them realize, like, it's possible. Question, do you know of any other cases similar where the headship was actually sentenced to prison? Do others in the community blame her? And the friend says there were some families whose headships were arrested for tax evasion reasons, people who lived off the grid, sovereign citizen type lifestyles. Okay, I didn't see an answer to if the community blames her, but I think we've already seen and we've heard that the community did put some of the blame on Anna. You know, that maybe if she had been more holy or she had helped Josh in certain ways, I mean, that's a part of what they believe. Okay, question. Anna recently deleted her Instagram and she hasn't posted anything on Twitter. What do you make of her disappearing from social media? And I mean, I think Anna's one of the few people who really did disappear off of social media. I think Josiah is another one who really headed for the hills and has led a private life. The friend says, I would assume she did this so people couldn't track where she's going and put two and two together all the time. I hope that she was thinking she needed to protect her kids as well. And then question, someone asked, do you think she'll get a job outside to provide for herself and her kids while Josh is in jail? And at that point in time, the person said, my understanding is that they still have a business and she manages it. And that was what happened when Josh initially went to prison. I think eventually it shut down. And now she's moved on just recently to doing the dog thing. Question: has she ever been self-aware or always gullible and overly naive? And the friend says, look, she was very self-aware, opinionated, headstrong, funny, and smart. And actually in the emails, I think that Anna comes off as being smarter than Josh. I think, there's issues going on there, but I think Anna, for someone who didn't go to school, I don't know. I was a little bit, I was expecting her to not sound as with it as she was, or be able to write as well as she was. Not saying it was great, but for someone who never went to school, I was somewhat impressed. Okay, so this person said she was funny and smart. Naive was a basic concept we were all born with in that cult, though. You have to set aside your personality when you get married. Okay. Question: from your perspective, did she repress all those traits, which I consider positive ones, when she married? Do you think that any of the old Anna is still there? And then the friend says, yes, that's very common. And she watched multiple of her other sisters do the same. Her oldest sister's testimony was about how she sobbed. This is a sister that went to Africa. Her oldest sister's testimony was about how she sobbed for 3 days when her dad told her who she was going to marry. And that was who was held up on a pedestal. So this sister's testimony was held up on a pedestal for us as the gold standard. Like, this is how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to die to yourself, an actual phrase that we heard over and over again in regards to courtship marriage. So essentially giving up who you are, giving up, your opinions. Like, I guess what I take from that is that the sister did not like the match that was made, but then was like, it doesn't matter. I have to find a way to like it. This is how it works. I got to die to myself. I have to find some humility and figure out a way to be the best partner for my husband. Question. I'm sorry. She also says you have to die to yourself. It was an actual phrase we heard over and over again in regards to courtship marriage. So once her dad decided she wanted to marry Josh, she had to conform, right? And so people are really taken aback by that. They didn't realize like how bad things were for that eldest sister, who now lives in Africa with 13 kids in a hut somewhere and ministers to the people. Okay. Question: what did they actually tell her about Josh's past when she was getting into their courtship engagement, and what did she really know? Okay. The friend says everyone in those circles knew what Josh was like. One of the first things her brother said when they were talking in their pre-courtship phase was how Josh was one of the most perverse, disgusting guys he's ever met. And he was pissed his sister was going to have to be subjected to that. It was not a secret that he had molested his siblings either. When they were pre-courting, so Anna was 19 and she wasn't 20 yet. It was on the internet in forums because I Googled him myself. I wonder if TLC had a hand in quieting that information as they grew in popularity. When the scandal broke, I was surprised because I thought everyone knew already. So I believe back then there was a forum called Free Ginger, and people were exposing a lot of shit about the Duggars in that forum, and Pickles was a part of it. I've talked about Pickles on this channel. So there were older people in the community who knew what had happened with Josh and the Duggars, and they were talking about it on the internet. Now, people like me who watched the show knew nothing about it. I wasn't that into it. I wasn't looking at forums, but people who were involved with the family, people in the IBLP, people in their circle were aware of some of it. Question: if Anna had divorced Josh, would there be any support from her religious community, or would she be completely shunned? Okay. And the friend says she would be excommunicated from many of her relationships, much of the community. I think she would find more sympathy with wives, mothers, but those wives and mothers wouldn't be allowed to lend her support because their husbands wouldn't allow it. Oh, that's so sad. Yeah. Question: do you know if JB and Michelle still genuinely believe he's innocent, or is that just their narrative? And this friend says, I don't think they believe he's innocent. And I took their statement after the guilty verdict as acknowledgement of his guilt. And I think we do kind of see that in the emails that Anna seems to say, like, your parents are done. And Josh is saying, like, my siblings never email me. My parents never talk to me. I'm all alone. And I would just assume that that indicates that they believe he did do something wrong. Question, before Josh was ever in the picture, what type of person did Anna think she would marry? What was her type? What kind of friend was Anna to her friends? Okay, the friend from childhood says, I think she was more attracted to tall, non-sweaty, non-greasy guys. So Josh really came out of left field. As a friend, she was fun and caring, a little bossy, as one is when they're trying to boss a million little siblings around, though. Nothing more than any of the other families with older daughters. She was also hysterical and witty. I can't imagine Anna being hysterical and witty. It's sad. I wonder if she retains any of that now. She seems just very sad. Do you have any insight on why Anna and Suze drifted apart over the years? So Suze is the older sister who married like outside of the ATI, whatever, and she had like a very wealthy husband. I think she's significantly older than Anna. If you look at Susan now, she looks amazing. She looks like a model. Like she's had a lot of work done. She has money. She takes care of herself. She was on some of the episodes of 19 Kids and Counting, and she like flew them on her private plane. It was weird. So it's just something weird about that situation. But this friend just says, I think they're just simply growing apart and having two separate busy lives, raising their own children. Now, Susan doesn't have a lot of children, but they were never the closest sisters. But you saw Susanna more on the show when she was younger and still living at home because they didn't have anything else to do. I guess Susanna was the only one that could like take them places and do things with them. Very interesting. We're almost done here, guys. 2 questions. 1, does an older daughter, like say Jana, for instance, have to stay single to take care of the parents in old age? And 2, does any of these families take their kids to regular doctor visits, or do they use food stamps? Okay. So the friend says food stamps were definitely wrong, and people in those circles often use Dave Ramsey's rice and beans mantra to excuse their inability to provide food for their children. CPS was a daily scare tactic for many homeschooled families, but it depended on the family for their level of medical care. And remember, Anna refused CPS to interview her kids after Josh, and she was able to get legal representation. That's why I say the police moved in quick with Kendra and kind of cut it off, and they were able to interview the kids and get them out of the home. But I think they learned, I think that they were overly, this is my opinion, I believe that they were probably overly strict with Kendra and really went to an extreme in taking the kids away. Now, I could be wrong because we don't have all the information, but I believe they did all of this and were more strict and overly invested in it because they saw what happened, how everyone criticized them when they were unable to get Anna's kids. Because there was a huge backlash of how the police were like helping the Duggars and they didn't get Anna's kids, and Anna's kids have been abused and the police didn't do their job. Well, I will tell you that right now in Tinytown, Arkansas, a lot of people in that area talk about how much the police actually hate the Duggars. People in political places and people who work in the police department, they don't really have connections. This is what I've been told. They don't really have connections with the Duggars anymore. They are looking to take them down. They are watching them. The Duggars kind of stay to themselves. They don't have the same power that Jim Bob used to have. Okay, I experienced extensive medical neglect, this friend says, and I believe 2 of her siblings did as well. One of those might be Priscilla, because people have really questioned what was going on with Priscilla. There was also a stillbirth that happened after Anna that the police investigated. CPS only investigated one family in our circle who 1,000% should have had their children taken away from them, but the people in our community covered up for them. To my knowledge, CPS was never involved in the Keller home. So she has a history, and these people have histories with being told, like, don't let CPS come into your home. Question, when Josh went to rehab, Anna let at least one of the daughters wear pants. What do you think happened there? Okay, answer. Anna and Josh let some of the ATI standards go from the beginning of their marriage, music and shows. And remember, they moved to DC and they were doing stuff that wasn't in line with what Jim Bob and Michelle were doing. So I'm guessing, as with everything loosening up, it was just the next thing. Most fundamentalists these days are less focused on the clothes, which in my opinion is kind of even more dangerous because you don't realize that someone is so toxic when they appear so normal on the outside. And that's very interesting and well said. Question. I was curious how her other siblings were. I know a few of them were on the show. What did they believe? Okay. I'm just going to read the answer because it was a long question. One, some of her siblings left the belief system. Some of them went back semi-recently, I believe. I would say it's about 60-40 for them being still in that belief system. There's at least one sibling who will acknowledge what a scumbag Josh is openly. I think that's the brother. Two, it was super hard to leave, talking about herself, when that's your only community in your entire world and nothing makes sense outside of it for a while. I mean, these are also people who were homeschooled. So I really think my education and my schooling, I definitely went to public school, was my way out of some hard situations in my family. Really opened up a whole nother world for me. And I was very dedicated to doing well in school. And these people didn't even have that option. Number three, I don't think she ever had a specific interest. Okay, this question is, did she ever show interest in wanting a specific guy like Jessa? Okay, and the friend says, I don't think she ever had a specific interest. I mean, there were always cute boy crushes growing up, but nothing serious because that wasn't allowed. All right, question, were you around Anna when Josh was courting her? If so, how did she talk about him when the cameras weren't around? Friend says the courtship was only 12 hours long or something like that. So the cameras weren't around until they got engaged, basically. My impression was that she was slightly nervous, but I chalked that up to none of us wanted to that life deep down. So sad. Question, do you know if Josh and Anna waited for their wedding night? And this is where she says wedding night or a brief moment in between the wedding and the reception while a sister guarded the door. And she goes on to talk about that a little bit more in the thread, but I didn't really want to go all into it. But she's insinuating that essentially Josh was like whisking her to a room. A sister was on the outside and there was more than kissing that went on. I just think, it's hard to think about how Anna had to deal with that. Question, do you think they accept Susanna even though she's not a fundie anymore? Susanna's the really rich sister. And I just thought it was funny that their friend was like, who wouldn't accept someone with a private jet? There's a lot more question and answers on Reddit from this Reddit user. Let's take this. I'm going to take this down. Hey, everybody. Got my drink. All right, I missed a lot of the comments. I'm sorry because I had to make it big for me to read the Reddit stuff. So I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody. I'll go through a couple comments and then we'll be done. Let's go up a little bit. Okay, Umbrella Rebellion. Again, thank you for even giving us all this information because you're providing a lot of background information we don't always have. Umbrella Rebellion, yes. As a woman, you have no autonomy. You serve your husband and birth babies. That is where your value lies. Yeah, we've definitely, I remember reading like some of the pamphlets from the IBLP, and it was really sad to see what they were teaching the young girls. Okay. Oh, shoot. She knows about Free Ginger. Free Ginger actually had a rule when I was there that speculation on the molestations was not allowed, but it was still present enough that I knew the rumor way back in like 2008. Oh, wow. Shoot. Yeah, see, I never was like a part of Free Ginger, but I researched it for a video and I was kind of shocked that a lot of the people like Pickles is very well known. She still has a Facebook group where she goes on and on about the Duggars. She's one of the first people to like really push out there that something is wrong with this family. And it turns out she was on Free Ginger fighting with people over there for a while. And that forum really kind of broke open a lot of information about what was going on behind the scenes. Because for me, I wasn't a part of all that. I had people in my family who were involved, but I was kind of living my own life. I went off to college. I would watch TLC and be like, oh, this family is so crazy. I love watching them. So I was not someone who was aware of what was happening behind the scenes. It took a while. It really took things coming out about Josh for me to go down that rabbit hole. Okay, let's go down here. Okay, Umbrella Rebellion. A shit ton of judgment on women for not being fertile. Okay, despite the fact that it might be on the man. Oh my gosh. That's so ancient, right? And I'm guessing that a lot of people involved in ATI, fundamentalist Christianity, IBLP, they don't have money and they don't have health insurance, right? Like a lot, especially if you're a pastor, you may not have health insurance. So you're not even able to go and get the testing done to know, like, hey, it's not even the woman that's causing this problem. It's just so interesting because those of us who live outside of that religious situation, we have things like that available to us. Okay. 11, I'm just trying to get a few different people's comments up here. 11 says, it falls upon Jim Bob to take over on wayward son's husbandly duties. Oh, I wasn't even thinking about that. And I remember reading it and talking about it in prior videos. You're right. I mean, Jim Bob really ended up having control over Anna. It's interesting to me that he did buy the house, but he left it in his name. He's definitely not giving it to her. Umbrella Rebellion says medical neglect is very common. We heard that from Anna's friend. They lived in DC. He was only working there for a minute. Yeah, they lived in DC for like a year because I was in the area and they were living in Oxon Hill. And I found that really interesting. They lived in Oxon Hill in Maryland. Oxon Hill house there, and they lived there for a period of time. I never saw her around, but I did end up speaking to some people. This is back when I was doing videos a couple years ago about Josh. I did end up speaking to people who supposedly knew Josh through, I forget the name of the think tank he worked for, but I knew some of the people who worked there. And I talked to them, and just like a lot of stuff that they had to say were like, Josh thought he was the shit. I mean, he thought he was walking in there like, I'm the prince of Christianity, IBLP, Christian fundamentalism, and I'm going to be a president someday. He didn't say that, but that was like the vibe he gave off. And they said that he came in, he didn't do a lot of work. He was inappropriate. He's like a kid that you could tell was like homeschooled. He didn't know how to write. Like, he would write things up and it would be like all jumbled. He would ask other people to do his work for him. There were a lot of people who made accusations about him being very sexually active during that time in the DC area with women. Anna, from what I've been told, Anna mostly stayed home. The only time she ever really came into the think tank is actually when they put it on TLC. You can watch that episode where she drives into DC with her van and she can't, like, she's like, I'm going to get in a car accident. Because Oxon Hill back then was like country, like ghetto country area. And yeah, like a lot of people who don't have money, like, live out there. It just was like, and I mean, I would have lived there too, because I didn't have, trust me, before my husband came along, I didn't have any money. I was living in those kinds of places too. So you're DC adjacent, but you're not actually in DC. But you're watching the comings and goings. So Anna never came in. She stayed at the house in Oxon Hill. She didn't go out. Like, that was another thing that people talked about, is like nobody in the area was even like knew that Josh and Anna were there. She kept to herself, right? So interesting. I did hear from some people that she had some work done while she was in DC. I found that interesting. This is speculation. Make your own decisions. I can't say, exactly what happened. This is just what people. Oh yes, Shu says Family Research Council. Yes, all these crazy think tanks. Because actually, before I was with my husband, I was with this guy who was like a mover and shaker in DC politics in the conservative movement, which was weird because I was like super liberal back then. But he did some work. He wasn't like in the Family Research Council, but he did some work there. So that's how I knew some of the people back in the day when I had a weird life. Okay. Carol. Hi, Carol Stewart. Okay. As a non-American, how big are these warped religions in the US? I don't think they're very big. It's like very small numbers in the funding Christian religion. They just got put all over TLC. But, there's different shades of it, because like Jeremy and Ginger, I would say people wouldn't call, okay, Umbrella Rebellion, I would say people wouldn't call Jeremy and Ginger fundamentalist. They're their religious sect, right? But I think it's like real fucked up. So I don't like Jeremy. I do not like him. I don't like that they live in a multi-million-dollar mansion in freaking Hollywood, and he's just a minister. The grift is strong with those two. Bite says, that's exactly what I heard about Josh. The whole movement really thought they were going to take over Washington. Yeah, no, totally. That was what I was hearing, was that there was this idea that Jim Bob was raising his kids to basically infiltrate Washington, D.C. and become these like huge politicians. And they were like heading up the whole IBLP because they had their TLC show. And Josh was like the shining star of it back then. That's what I was told. Now, behind the scenes, what's weird is like Jim Bob knew there was a lot of stuff wrong with Josh. So I don't know if he just thought he was going to be able to cover it up forever. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, John MacArthur. Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, Umbrella Rebellion says their church was led by John MacArthur, who isn't far off from the IBLP. I thought he was kind of far off, but they're very, like, their whole belief system too is like that they can make money, right? That's a kind of a big thing too, is like they're going to go out there and make money and bring like good things to themselves, and God wants them to have those things. Because John MacArthur is like all about Jeremy. Like he helped him buy the house in Hollywood. Like Ginger's kind of like their shining star. They make videos of Jeremy like buying sneakers, like he's his sneaker collection. It's like a whole thing. I don't like Ginger and Jeremy's YouTube channel. I actually think they're worse than like any of the other. I'd rather watch Jessa. Like I think Jessa is just still very ingrained in the IBLP and Quiverful movement, but I feel like they're at least not living in a multi-million-dollar house in Hollywood and doing it. Oh, okay. John, Umbrella Rebellion. I have a clip of John MacArthur on my latest podcast. He's dead now. Okay, yes, but it was recent, right? Because I swear that he had some stuff to say about Jeremy, where he was like, this is like, I'm welcoming him into like our faith, and he's going to be like this minister and everything. Please check out Umbrella Rebellion because she's got it all on her channel. Okay. Bite says, I feel like Josh came in like, woohoo, hookers and blow. Yes, that should be the name. That should be the title of this video. Josh came in like, woohoo, hookers and blow. And DC was like, we don't say that part out loud, idiot. Bite, I love you. I love you, Bite. Oh my God. That's like 100% what I experienced when I've talked to people about, because I came in later and then I asked them what had happened with Josh, and they were like, that guy was a fucking idiot. They're like, what an idiot. It's my favorite comment I've ever had. I feel like Josh came in like, woohoo, hookers and blow. And DC was like, we don't say that part out loud, idiot. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you guys for being here. I will address this real quick. Jessica says, I heard Katie Bates is claiming to be distancing herself from her family because of them harming her in her past, considering Gil was named in the lawsuit against Bill Gothard. Okay. I want to say that my understanding of all of this, I haven't made a video about it because I don't want to, because Katie isn't really talking about it. Katie put out one post where she said, like, I'm distancing myself from my family because she's moving. And people were like, don't you want to stay near your family? And she's like, actually, like, some stuff has happened. I'm not as close with my family as people think. Some dark stuff happened, in the past, and I want to get away. Okay, now other people in social media, Katie Joy Paulson, have jumped to the conclusion that this means that Katie Bates was sexually abused, and all this stuff is now going to come out about the Bates. And that is not what Katie said. Let Katie tell her own story. I'm not always good at that, but I was like, why are people jumping? All she said was there's some stuff going on with her. So I just wanted to put out there, because Jessica, you are like the 20th person who has brought this up in one of my live streams. And they're like, are you going to cover that? And I'm like, I won't say anything or really look into it until Katie talks about it, because her post did not say that someone like SA'd her. Thank you, Ivana. Yes. Okay. Thank you guys so much. I love all of you. Thanks for being here. I did an earlier stream about Trump. Ivana, you got to go look at it. Ivana knows. I talked about Canada and stuff, but because I think you might disagree. I want to talk, Ivana, you and I should talk about it. Ivana's in Canada, so she would get it. I know people don't like politics, but I went on and on about like my political feelings about everything that's going on and what I'm experiencing here in Africa and how everyone hates the United States now. And just like, even though I'm kind of a middle of the range person now in my life, and I want to accept and love all people from the different opposite ends of the spectrum of the political forum, I am so disgusted with Donald Trump. And I feel like people really have to be honest about how he comes from a very elite, corrupt, toxic group of men who are literally fucking with us, you guys. Like Bite knows how it goes in DC. These people are not even real people. They don't care about us. They're about money, power, fame. There's a lot of people in the Democratic Party who are like that as well, but Trump is the epitome of all of it. He's an idiot. If you love Trump, I still love you. And I'll listen to like what you have to say. There are a lot of people in my family who love him, who are MAGA, and still care about him. I still think he does a good job. But I really had to put out there, like, it's not just about Trump. It's about all the shit that's going down internationally. People have no idea what the war in Iran is really leading us towards. And it's weird and it's fucked up. And I did a video about it. And a lot of people were like, I'm never watching your channel again. And I don't care, because this channel is just fun for me. So I don't want to hurt anybody. I'm not trying to offend you, but I wanted to talk about, like, I even made this whole pyramid where I was like, let's talk about like where the countries fall on the pyramid. I have so much more to say. I'm so glad that all of you were here with me tonight. I'm glad we got to talk about it and look at just a couple of the emails. And I hope to see all of you guys again another time. Bye, everybody.